What is up, guys, and welcome back to the second episode of the podcast. We're staying on schedule. We're really doing this, and we're going to keep them coming as long as we want to. I mean, we enjoy doing this as much as we can, so hopefully y'all get a little bit out of it. Today, we got a couple topics that we want to go over, and it's going to be interesting to get, of course, the other host, John.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to get his opinion on a bunch of things because kind of like what we talked about before, I'm obsessed probably at this point with stuff that could probably make your life a lot worse if you worry about them all the time. But I try not to let it ever get that far. I mean, I would say I'm pretty generally a happy person still.
Yeah.
But I stay up on news, BS, all kind of stuff just to, I like it. I'm not even afraid to admit it at this point. But John lives a very healthy, good life, and he doesn't watch any of it, which he's probably happier than me in the long run during some different situations and so. But we got a couple things that we're going over today, a bunch of topics, and hopefully this will be a good second episode.
Yeah.
So I do want to kind of go over just some of the topics really, really quickly. We only have an hour doing this. That's a good point. I probably need to go over there and actually start the timer so I don't go over the timer. Perfect. And so getting with the topics today, we kind of want to go over. For one, I want to get a lot of John's opinions on this. Then we might have a couple rebuttal. We might agree on some things. We might disagree on some things. But it's going to be interesting to hear from a guy that looks at this stuff all the time and nerds out about it versus a guy that just a pretty regular dude.
Yeah. I don't really follow as much as he does with
right. So
current stuff.
The current topics that we kind of want to talk about right now. For one, I want to get John's opinion and y'all's opinion as well on all these. Put it in the comments because this is stuff that we read. I find it really, really interesting. I look at them all the time. But the first thing that it leads right into the skeptics of everything is the nominees for the president. I forgot to show you the video. I was going to show you it before we started here of Donald Trump going into the UFC. Yes. I don't follow UFC. I'm not a big fighter guy. I'd rather just shoot you. Just being honest. I tell him this all the time. But when Trump goes into a UFC arena, because he's now hanging out with Dana White, he's got Tucker by his side all the time. One time he had Kid Rock.
Yeah.
And it goes absolutely nuts. Like, it's more cheering for him than it actually is for any of the other, even the fighters.
Yeah.
It seems like he's got just a huge crowd behind him. And, of course, now we got Biden, who just gave the State of the Union address.
Correct.
And I want to get your opinion on that, even though you didn't watch it. I only watched a little bit of it, and I'm already going to tell you, you didn't waste no time not watching it.
Yeah.
So that I also want to get your opinion on everybody, no matter who you listen to at this point, is talking about some kind of civil war, some kind of world war, some kind of revolutionary war. Wars all the time. I think me and you both agree that wars is not the greatest thing in the world, but I want to get your opinion on what's going on in the rest of the world right now, so I think it'd be interesting. And another thing, one of the last things that me and him were talking about is, I think everybody knows at this point, or at least if you know us in real life versus the first podcast episode, that we are too big. We like guns, we like freedom, we love America, and the ATF, if you don't know who they are, you will learn about them in this episode, and you'll also learn that the most common pistol in the world is a Glock, and the weapons expert of the ATF could not take it down. So,
well, in a timely fashion. I'll give him the credit. It got took down, but
you're right. So anyway, I want to get his opinions on that. Great podcast. I hope y'all stick around. This is going to be a really, really good one, and we're just going to kind of hop into the first topic, unless is there anything that you kind of want to say?
Nope. I'm ready to rock and roll.
You ready to rock and roll?
Yeah.
Okay. First one. We kind of already went over just a little bit.
Yeah.
Little bit. The State of Union address was a couple days ago at this point. It might even been a week.
Yes.
Joe Biden got up and spoke in front of a huge crowd of people. It was very inspiring. I'm sure you could probably think it was, but I think it actually got to the point probably about a year and a half ago to where I think everybody's probably starting to realize now that it is some form of just breaking down at this point. I don't hate the guy. I feel sorry for the guy, but I think he coughed 27 times during this whole thing. Every now and then he just throws something random out there. And I just want to, for one, get your opinion on how do you think other countries and other people that you may say are friends, you may say are enemies, we don't really necessarily know at this point since the world's going absolutely nuts. We got Ukraine, we got Russia, we got all this. If you were another leader of a country and say you weren't fond of the United States, but you didn't just hate us.
Yeah.
What would you think when you see Biden just anytime? It doesn't have to be even this address. You've seen him before in any kind of, in just regular speaking. Go ahead and give us what you think is how he's doing right now.
Current perceptions, man, not good. I mean, if we're gonna be honest, it's pretty clear. I think I've never dealt with many people at that age category who have had problems per se. It's an odd thing because he's the leader, in quotations, of the country, and so it looks bad.
I agree.
That's my take on it. Whether you want to admit that it looks negative or not, it's negative because we're the superpower or perceived as a superpower amongst other large countries. And so whenever the person who's supposed to be leading this great, powerful country isn't coherent when speaking, it's kind of a negative. And so, yeah, I mean, I think other people are going to perceive weakness maybe, or they're going to perceive incompetency, but whatever you want to call it, I mean, it's no good.
I think you would agree with me on this, but maybe you don't. That our president is probably not the guy pulling most of the strings right now. Just, and the reason I'm even saying that is just looking at logical of his well-being.
Mm-hmm.
If you are willing to go on a stage in front of the world and say things that most people don't understand, like there's multiple sentences out there that where he's literally, I don't think anybody knows what he's saying. And like I said, it's sad. I hate to see it for him, and let alone I hate to see it for the rest of the country because I do agree with you. It ends up making us look weak because we're able to put somebody up there that has no cognitive ability of probably what's really happening anymore.
Right.
Every now and then he gets up there, and I give him credit to be able to just speak in front of the world because, heck, I don't know if I could do it because that's a huge thing to do. But in the end, he did take that position. Now, whether you think that was rigged or whether you think it wasn't, he's there now. So the best thing that we can do is talk about it. And everybody vote. Please vote. I don't care who you're going to vote for, but that's the only way. And yes, I've talked to him about this before. Does our vote really matter? I don't know. The way, in my opinion, the last one went, it doesn't seem like they did. However, I'm still going to vote no matter what. Just for hopefully something that can change.
Right.
So with that being said, you remember me and you talked about, I don't know if I ever actually ended up showing you this, but somebody on Joe Biden's Twitter page put a flyer or poster up for the State of Union address that he did.
Yeah.
In the flyer, it said that the day of the address was February 7th of 2023. Me and you both know he's not the guy typing stuff up on Twitter.
Right.
So if he's not the guy setting the stuff up from Twitter, but somebody is willing to pass this through to go onto Twitter, do you think that's just a mistake, or are they trying to play to something?
No, I think it's just a mistake. In all reality, I think these people get in a rush, even on things that shouldn't be rushed, and it's just like, yeah, pass it through. Yeah, pass it through. And then you get something like that with the completely wrong dates. Or maybe that's, and maybe we should have looked into that. I don't know. I didn't even think about it till now, but when did he give a State of the Union last year? Could they have just reposted by accident maybe last year's
Possibly, but it still worries me. I mean, it's technically one of the biggest groups in the world.
Right.
I mean, the government.
Yeah.
And if you were a government of people that wanted Joe Biden to be the president again, I don't know if you would make that mistake, because I think the world nowadays, especially Americans, is starting to see that, hey, Biden might not be the person that we need right now.
Right.
And yes, he's had a bunch of failures when it comes to policies along with that. Yes, he does have some things going wrong with him, but I don't want to just toss the rock over my shoulder. I don't think he's done a lot of good right now. We're technically in a war. We're technically not in a war. There's a lot of people thinking that the economy is going nuts. I can't tell you that I understand it though, because all my stocks are up 20%. But I see people walking around in other podcasts talking about how hard it is out here, and I'm not saying it's even easy. I mean, there's a bunch of times where money can go really, really quickly, and it doesn't help when you got to pay $3.05 for gas.
Right.
So I do think that it is time that we get somebody else. With the state of who he is now, though, do you think that he will be the person to run for president?
No, I don't think so.
Is there anybody that you think would come up to take his spot? Because if they don't have him,
mm-hmm.
then I don't know if there's even another Democrat running right now. I don't know. Kennedy went as an opinion or a independent,
mm-hmm.
and so I'm anxious. I don't know. I got my suspicions of who I think will probably come up and just randomly take over the spot, but I don't think that it will be Joe Biden. If I think me and you made this bet, or not really a bet, but we've talked about it before. I said to our friend Connor that I think for the union address that they probably pumped him up with everything that they could just for him to get up there and to do that. I know there's a lot of people saying that he is super duper healthy, which really throws me for a loop. Gavin Newsom's out there saying that he is the most respectful, intelligent man that you've ever heard in your life, and I'm just like, what? Like, well, are you seeing something that I'm seeing? By no means a supporter of Putin, but do you think Joe Biden could go up there for 45 minutes and give a whole rundown on what America was like made for or astounded for or whatever? Now, whether you think Biden was wrong or Putin was wrong or right, I haven't looked into that much, but I know that he did go up there for 45 minutes and just talked about. Did you even watch that?
No.
Okay, so the whole first of the thing, he gave Tucker a 45-minute rundown on why he thinks that Ukraine belongs to Russia and what Russia kind of stands for and this, and that. A lot of people thought he was just trying to BS his way through the question.
Right.
There might have been a little bit of that, but I do think that dude, he had the intelligence to be able to tell that whole story back. Now, I haven't fact-checked him. I'm sure there's people out there that have, but I don't think Biden could do that. That would... My prediction is that Biden will not be elected again. I don't think he will end up running. I think you give it a couple more months, and I think they'll probably blame it on him getting sick, which is fine. That I understand completely. I don't know who will come up as a Democrat. There's a couple people that I have in mind, but it's out there. But you don't know nowadays.
Right,
I mean, that's why we're now a group of people that you don't know what's going to happen next.
Right.
I mean, who would have ever thought the government would have come out and said we have aliens at this point? He's like, oh look, this Navy ship has been following a UFO for who knows how long now. When the whole time we were like talking behind the closed doors just with friends, like, does anybody think that aliens are real? Like this and that. And now we got. I would have never in my life. Now whether they're real or not, that's wild that they finally came up and said that. So it would be nothing. I would almost bet anybody, and I hate for this is. After the election, Joe Biden does not get reelected because he drops out. I bet you give it 3 months, and if he's still walking around, I will be very amazed because I think they're giving him everything that they can right now just to keep him going until the time. So I wish I could have showed you that UFC video of Trump walking in there. I mean, everybody goes absolutely nuts. Whether you respect Trump or you don't like Trump, you're going to vote for him, you're not going to vote for him. It is wild watching a UFC video from multiple people, from multiple angles, the reaction that he gets when you walk in there. I mean, I can't imagine what it's like being to one of his rallies, but if it's anything like a UFC fight, I bet it gets hyped. And he's going in there, handshaking everybody, smiling. Dude, it's just, I saw my guy, PBD, he shook his hand. Candace Owens, half the Daily Wire team, he was in there. I mean, he was shaking everybody's hand. And then Dana White is really walking right next to him like a dadgum bodyguard. So it's like, I mean, say what you want, but if you want somebody that will bring the house down of people that support him, it would be him. Like I would want to see a reaction of somewhere to where, because I do think in the end a lot of UFC people are probably more patriotic than some other people. Like I said, I'm not a UFC person, or I don't even know if you are. Or just fighting in general.
I enjoy watching some UFC fights, but I don't follow all the like the background stuff.
Right. But like, I mean, I know Dana White loves United States. Obviously Tucker does. We know Kid Rock does.
Yeah.
Ton of people like that. Now, I think if there's more people like that in that scenario, then they will probably fall to him very much. But I thought it was a very interesting thing, so I want to go on to another topic real quick.
Okay.
And it kind of goes right into it. Is Civil War or World War? We had to talk a long time ago about when we first kind of got really big into firearms. Everybody, remember when the word boogaloo was a word? Everybody was like, the boogaloo's coming. And you wear the Hawaiian button-up shirt, the freaking the cry hat and the helmet and the rest of the gear. But anyway, you're trying to prepare for essentially a world breakdown of some point. But the reason I want to ask the question is we got multiple things going on in the world. Of course, we got Russia and we got Ukraine.
Yep.
Now we got Gaza versus Israel, essentially. Yep. Even though I haven't really heard much about that in the last little while. It seems like maybe you have, but I haven't.
I still see some stuff going on, but it's just, I think, the people I follow versus people you follow.
And then we got China now essentially threatening to take over Taiwan.
Yeah.
So the question to you is, do you think there's more chance of there being a civil war, whether it being just the God-loving people of America versus our government, or do you think that there's more chance that there will be a world war to where it's us fighting against? I don't just mean us, whether you want to say NATO, whatever,
right.
Just on a way larger scale. I'm very interested to get your opinion on it.
So this is something where I think maybe some of the wrong wording has been used, as well as you got to be careful. So the last time in our history that we had a civil war, it was like moms against daughters and fathers against sons, you know, or husbands and wives, or whatever you want to say, cousins, etc., is what it was. It wasn't like us versus the government. That was like our Revolutionary War, right? When there was a split off from Britain. And so,
well, I
don't foresee anything like a revolution happening, if possible, and this is why. I mean, there's a lot of people who've talked about it and think about it, but I think everybody who has something who can make things happen in our country sees that something's got to give, I think, because if we're at odds with each other, then it's easier for other people to find us in a weak position, right?
So you don't think they're trying to do that to us now?
No, I don't think intentionally. I don't think they're intentionally trying to pit us against them. I think there's almost been a mind shift within our generation.
So okay, let's say on percentage. If I was to ask you,
yes,
what is the percentage of you trusting your dad? If you had to put it on a percentage base, what would you be your percentage?
100%.
Okay. let's say that you go to a gun training,
Mm-hmm.
and it's one of the guys that we like. Throwing out there, Mike Glover.
Yeah.
And you do one training with him. And not just talking about the gun aspect. About say you sit down and you have a conversation with him about a bunch of different things. What do you think your percentage is that you would trust him? You've never met him. Now you like the guy from the perception that we have of watching him, giving information and everything. But what would you say the percentage is that you trust him?
I guess I would give it a 75%.
So now let's say you say one day you get pulled over.
Mm-hmm.
You're running 75 miles an hour, and you deem yourself a pretty good driver.
Yeah.
But the speed limit was 65.
Yeah.
And the cop pulls you over.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm not even going to give you a speeding ticket. He said, I'm going to give you a ticket because you're now endangering the public where you're driving by.
Right.
How much would you trust him saying that it's true? Now, you know you're a good driver.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I could be running 100 right now, but I would say I would probably good. So the trust would probably be a lot lower than 50%.
I don't know. I think you have to really think about it. I think that trust is actually on the higher. I think it'd be higher than 50%.
Okay, so
because
let's say
no matter whether or not you are a good driver or not in this scenario, I can't control what other people do. So theoretically, yeah, I'm a danger to others at that point, not the other way around. Even if I am a good driver, there's a higher percentage that something could go wrong.
Okay, let's say you have a suppressor.
Mm-hmm.
It's legally yours. You paid for it.
Yeah.
And the ATF comes to your door and says, I'm here to take that suppressor.
Yeah.
And he shows you the badge and everything. And he's going to take that suppressor. Do you trust that guy? Because it's something that's technically yours.
No, I don't trust that. That's kind of sketchy.
Oh, okay, so
if I've went through the due process,
right,
and I've acquired something,
right,
and I've done everything right, and then you're going to tell me I'm wrong.
Okay, so
then what's the logic on that one?
In that case of that, what kind of trust percentage would you say you trust the government then? Like 20% under?
I'll give them a 30. We'll give them a 30%.
Okay, so that being a 30%, even if it's under 50, you don't think they're trying to divide us now? And I don't mean the government's dividing us from the government.
Mm-hmm.
I mean the government is just dividing people as a whole.
Well, I see it happening, but I think it's almost like, I don't know if it's just the government though. You see what I'm saying? I feel like from what I see in media outlets and stuff, is it's polar opposites. Everything polar opposites. There's a few I think that do a good job to bring light to people who are not like trying to like almost cause a division. But I think a lot of people are watching this stuff and it's like me versus you or us versus them.
But you don't think they're inflicting that? Like that's like okay.
See, that's the hard part. How much does the federal government have a play in what the media is pushing out?
I would say a lot. I would say, even though now we have podcasts, I would probably say 70%. Because before we had podcasts, I would have honestly said 80%. Because it has been proven that, say, CNN has been told not to tell things.
Mm-hmm.
Fox News has been told not to tell things.
Right.
Tucker's came out and already said that. There's NBC News has been caught multiple times saying the exact same thing,
mm-hmm.
that somebody's writing the thing for. Now is it the government? Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But somebody with the same mindset of trying to break people up, I would figure, from my opinion, is trying to do it. It's because I don't watch the news, like the actual news, much anymore.
Right.
Which is awesome about podcasts because the independent stuff is I think you can just learn a lot more from it. It's way more interesting to get the opinion of like everyday people than it is, and especially when you can bring on guests versus like the person that's just there to give you your news. Because when you give news, you're not supposed to give your opinion, but your opinion normally means a lot.
Yeah.
But in that case, I don't think they are, because there's not many times. Remember when we used to talk about all the time? What was that? The black guy that got the cop essentially killed him, but we figured out the cop didn't kill him. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh.
He had the knee on
You're talking about George Floyd.
George Floyd, that was it. During that era of time, and probably more years after or so, we would always see things in the news about a cop killing somebody or a white person killing somebody. But you would never see, like, I don't know if it still is. I mean, I would hope somebody could fact check me about this, but the last time I checked, the most crime that happens between black people is another black person. And I hate that for them, but somebody is not telling the more that you can show to the world that, hey, this white person killed this black person, I think it turns people's minds to think, well, it looks like there's more white people killing than there is black people. Well, and I think that creates a division, and you can talk about it in a multiple other aspects of this. Now, I don't know if the government's doing that, but there's somebody that is, and maybe I just raised the question wrong, that it was just us against the government. More so, like, I don't have any other words for it, really. Besides, I mean, because I don't know the even word for it, to be honest with you, because I don't know, what do you call someone that thinks that there's more than two genders? I hate that somebody has inflicted their mind to think that, because there is only one answer. We were talking about rocks to stay on last time.
Yeah.
That has to be one of them to this day. Now, yes, there is times where somebody is born and there is something wrong with them, and you can call them whatever the heck you want to call them. But there's probably some actual scientific name out there for something that happens like that. But it's not a normal thing.
Right.
There's only two genders. So if you're trying to find somebody that, like, there was a Twitter post, and I can't remember who it was by. I think it was by somebody, or it was rather by MSBC, I think, or whatever you want to call it. And it was talking about Hero of the Month. And the Hero of the Month was always like a transgender person. That was like rather a transgender male that switched to a woman and then went on a swim team and beat all the women. You're like, that does not need to be the hero. The hero needs to be the firefighter that saved the girl from the burning building.
Right.
The hero needs to be the cop that bursted in a school by himself to take out a killer that is killing children. That needs to be the hero. I don't want to see stuff like this, because then it makes everybody else feel like you're doing absolutely nothing. It's why a lot of people that went to Afghanistan think we went to Afghanistan for nothing now, because we went over there to do all that, and now they've took everything back. Plus, they're wearing our uniforms at this point. So it's like, I think that there is some kind of division that's meant to be. I don't know if I could really answer the question if there's a civil war versus a world war. It seems like we see way more stuff on like other countryside, but I think we can get out of that. I don't think we even have to be there.
Yeah, I do think that a world war might be more possible, but it's going to be because of there's two causes. Either a direct attack that's going to be like under the radar that I don't think people are really discussing, or it's going to be with NATO. You know, it'll be a NATO ally who we have to help.
Do you think that the government put us in Ukraine for an actual good reason?
Man, so I think that might be the same thing with, just like you were talking with the news, okay? Somehow, and we see more dollars going out, right? But what I mean by that is we're funding.
We are funding the war of Ukraine.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's what I meant by seeing the dollars go out. And my ideology on this is who's writing the checks, man? Who's getting paid to do that? Somebody's getting paid.
The government.
Well, yeah, but who is it? So, like, let's say, like there's about all kind of movies about stuff like this, but let's say there's a senator out there, and he goes, all right, if I can get these guys $1 million in weapons, I'll get a check.
Try 6 billion, but
Yeah, well, imagine 10 of them do it to a total of 6 billion.
oh yeah.
And each of them get back a check for $10 million from, I don't know who, but whatever. Somebody's getting paid, I feel like, to make certain things happen in certain areas. That's what I think's happening with the news, to answer that part real quick, is they get paid by views. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
You know, actual like regular news is dying. Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
But still, what sells, man? Even like on just the internet, crazy stuff, outlandish stuff that gets people either pissed off or
Right.
they're like, oh yeah, I'm so happy for this, etc. And so I think what occurs is they can get more views by people who are upset about things than they can by telling actual good stuff that's going on.
But is that the right thing to do?
No.
So you do think they're implementing the vision?
Yeah, but I don't know if it's just the government. So like,
No, yeah, that
think-
might
I
have been
think
on
there's-
me. That it's not. I don't think it's just the government either.
I think there's a widespread ideology from other people though that I've heard about who think it is just the government.
Yeah.
And I think that it's more than just the government. I think there's a lot more powers at will than just the government, you know.
So I have to ask you what you mean, because that's not where I was going with it. I was just going with it like the people that believe die hard that we need to be in Ukraine. The people that believe that Joe Biden is a healthy, fit individual. I mean, those people are the people that I was talking about, and I wish no harm to those people.
Right.
I hope it doesn't ever come to anything like that. But who are you to tell me that my child needs to be a boy when he was born a girl just because he likes playing with Tonka trucks? You have no right to tell me that. So I'm going to defend that one thing.
Yeah.
The government to me is nowadays is more the did you watch that movie with us, the Leave the World Behind movie?
No.
Have you watched it yet?
No. My family wants to watch it. So
I can't remember what the steps are, but there's one guy that talks about it in the movie. What's the steps of a collapsal breakdown, essentially? Mm-hmm. And the last step was just like let it play out. Like it wasn't even like that they were even having to do anything. It was like the first step was, man, I want to look it up, but I don't want to look it up at the same time. But it was like cut all communication out, and then spread false ideas, because there's one part in the movie where there's multiple airplanes driving around dropping off propaganda that's saying that one person said in Florida that it was North Korea, one person said in California that it was Russia. So that's just confusing the mind. And the last step was like just let it play out, because people will essentially end up killing themselves.
Right.
And so I would be very interested in wondering if that last step wouldn't happen if those first two steps didn't happen. Because they're cutting off the two things, or they're cutting off the communication to where nobody can have discussions like this. And then you're now filling people with lies that you can't fact check because there's nothing else to do. So it's like, I don't know if it will ever come to that kind of, that I hope it doesn't, but it's very interesting that movie came out. And it's like, it's such a clear-cut plan.
Right.
That it would probably work.
Well, and I mean, it seems like some of the stuff we have going on sounds similar to that. And they took and put it under a magnifying glass.
You're talking about like the AT&T outages and everything? Well,
kind of. But also, think about this. Whoever runs Facebook, Instagram, et cetera, and I know Twitter's a little bit different, which is good.
Yeah.
Because it needs to be all platforms need to be more open, in my opinion. And yes, there's certain things maybe shouldn't be allowed, but that's a whole different.
Of course, yeah.
You know, but they can even restrict what we're seeing to a certain extent. You know.
Yeah.
Really, actually, I think it's limitless for them. If you're running the show, I think it's limitless. That's another way to limit communication. Not just shutting down.
No, I agree.
Not just shutting down cell phones, but what you actually see.
Yeah.
If it's all propaganda, but then that's another thing you got to be careful of. So what if they are feeding you propaganda, right? and you're already in this like preparedness mindset, like you already think that something's gonna happen, and you live 70 years and nothing ever happens. Well, good.
100%.
I mean,
Good.
that's what we all want.
Yeah.
But I feel like sometimes there's a shift. Like people who just analyze what's going on versus like, all right, we got to be ready. Sometimes I think you get so caught up in the being ready for it, and it's actually you're the one who's magnifying it, making it seem bigger than it really is.
Yeah, no, I do think there is people out there like that.
Oh yeah.
Like one of the group chats that we were in, I've never considered myself like the doomsday prepper stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, I do collect food and collect ammo.
Right.
I don't have many guns. You know me, I don't think I need that many guns. But but a friend of ours, shout out to Cody Allender, said that I was pretty much the prepper of the group, or what he said, the apocalypse, or what the heck he said. There's one part in the movie to where there's a guy that it's Kevin Bacon, which shout out to Jacob Boss because he says I look like Kevin Bacon. So nice. Kevin Bacon's my new dad essentially, and he comes out with a shotgun and he's like, I'm not a shotgun guy, I'll be honest about that. He comes out with a shotgun and he's like protecting his family and this and that, and he doesn't want to give stuff over, this and that. And I don't want to be that kind of person though. Like the only way that you defeat the communication and the propaganda is that one saying from school that was on like all the poster boards that was like, you have to be nice to others like you would be nice to yourself.
Oh, the golden rule.
What is the actual?
The actual golden rule is do unto others as you want to be done unto you.
Okay, exactly. So that's the only way to fight back against the first two if that happens. I think the world, whether you want to consider it the government, the elites, people you don't agree with, are the people that's trying to make that step not happen.
Right.
So that's when it gets kind of funky, is when you don't give a crap if you have a bunker, you have a bunch of water, you even have a bunch of guns. It doesn't matter. The biggest fear is when you get a bunch of people with the same mindset and they're more likely to love each other than they are to hate each other.
Right.
That is when the elites, or whatever we want to call it, get scared, I think. And that's the one thing I think they're trying to stop from happening. Like, I don't go over and say like hi to my neighbor all the time. I mean, that one's kind of spread out and there's not a person that lives at this one half the time or whatever, but at least I know their names.
Right.
So it's like, and I've met them multiple times. If I see them on the road, I say hi to them or something like that. I'm not just like, oh, what's my neighbor's name? And I know you know your neighbor's name.
Yes.
So it's like, it's nice to know that at least some people go out there and kind of act like they do care at least, because one of the things that we talk about all the time at work is the way that you need to care about everything. One thing that we say should be number one is a God that you believe in.
Yes.
You gotta love a God.
Yep.
You gotta love yourself, because you can't love anybody before you love yourself. And then whether it be your spouse, then your children, and then your community, and that's what needs to be your circle. There's not a lot of things that me and him can do that will absolutely change the world, but I know for a fact that I can change my wife's life, I can change my kids' life down the line, if I have kids, I can change my friends' lives if they're going through something tough, and I can change my community's life if I show up all the time and do something. So you got, for the whole plan of trying to tear us apart, you have to learn to love each other. No matter what, you got to look for the good in each other. If somebody does show up to your house and they need some ibuprofen or something and the world's going to crap and you only got 2 bottles, yeah, it'll suck to get rid of 1 bottle, but it might save that person's life. And it might not, because it's just ibuprofen. So anyway, I got one more topic that I want to talk about, and this is great conversations we're having right now. I absolutely love this. So the last one of our favorites right here, the old ATF. And if nobody knows what that is, it is the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms group. It is essentially the guys that make the decisions on everything firearms about with everybody. Essentially, the only person that doesn't take effect to is the military.
Yeah.
But actually, I don't even know. Does the NRA do anything anymore? Like,
I'm gonna tell you something right now. I don't care who you
I
are.
don't either.
Okay.
What's your trust in the NRA?
Hell no. Zero.
Zero.
I can remember back in the day. I'll be. Well, what's the
Be blunt. Let's
what's the
hear
right
it.
word? Well, I'm not gonna call them out. But I knew somebody who was sponsoring the NRA or like giving them money to help them out or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Dog.
Most
they got was a hat, and some some
and it
stuff.
probably says "Don't buy suppressors."
And it had their logos on it.
Yeah.
Besides that, I don't know what they've done.
I don't know either. But
So.
our old boys at the ATF recently made a video, and this was, mind you, not just an employee at the ATF. This was the weapons expert.
Yes.
At the ATF, and he was disassembling a Glock 17, I think it was. And whether you don't know firearms or you do know firearms, Glock's kind of like the Nickelback of firearms. You rather like Nickelback or you don't like Nickelback, but you know who Nickelback is.
Yes.
So Glock is the same way. And this guy took him every bit of 5 minutes.
Something crazy,
to 10 minutes to take down a Glock. And when we mean take down, I mean take the slide off the lower and take the barrel out. And for people that's not gun people whatsoever, I encourage you to get into firearms because it's a great thing to get into and you learn to protect yourself, your family, and your community like we were talking about before. But it takes about 0.5 seconds.
And so here, I want to give a little bit better context too. I think they're Austrian made, the Glock,
Correct.
okay, and it is used worldwide. Literally, everybody in the world, okay, has access to these. I'm pretty well. Obviously, if you can't purchase guns where you live, which I apologize, that sucks.
It sucks.
But their government, I would say, uses them most likely.
Most
militaries, I think, have Glocks. Well, it's easy. We're talking about there's these two things on either side of the firearm. You pull the slide back ever so slightly, the top part of the gun, and then you pull these down, and then you just slide it off. That's it.
Right.
It's a 1, 2, 3 step process.
Done. Yeah.
And that's it.
And this guy took 5 minutes.
Yeah.
While the people that was also with the ATF in the background are looking at it like they saw a ghost or something. I mean, there's not much to look at him at the very end.
Yeah.
But this and bless the chick's heart, but she was sitting there just spinning around this lower, just like trying to analyze everything on it. And maybe she's just now getting into guns. I doubt it because she's an ATF person. I think I could, unless she was just a random person in the background. I don't know why she'd be in the video then. But there's a guy that we watch all the time, Grand Thumb. I'm sure a bunch of y'all know him, Mike. He pretty much did a world record of how fast you could take apart Glocks. That he ran out of Glocks, and this guy didn't even have the gun. I don't even know if he had the slide back yet, because you have to pull the slide back just a tad before you can slide it forward and pinch the little pins. I don't even know if he had that.
Well, I'm saying, so like if you watch it, he has already tried like 12 times by the time Mike has already got them all done.
Yeah.
And it's like, that is just ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
You're supposed to be an expert.
Yeah. You're the guy that tells me that if I put a suppressor on my gun, it now makes it 25% more deadly. When in reality, suppressors normally don't do that much benefit for the actual round versus mitigating the flash and making it somewhat quieter.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to be one of those people that argue that since the gun's quieter, that it's more deadly, mind you, if you really want a really, really, really quiet gun, your feet per second coming out of that gun is so low. Now, it will still hurt. I don't want to get shot by a BB gun.
No, yeah.
But if you're out here telling me that if I can now put this suppressor on my 5.56 gun, it turns it into a 308, it's not going to work.
Yeah, there's no crazy benefit.
No.
And when somebody says 25% more deadly,
yeah,
that makes it sound like it's going to be more powerful.
Right.
No, not even close. You know what I'm saying? And this idea that somebody should be an expert, so I'll give just a quick example. So, I love fishing. Okay? I listen to an expert with a certain bait So, like, you can even break it down to, like, categories, like, with firearms. Like, somebody who's an expert with just handguns.
Right.
And I listened to a gentleman with a particular bait, and it increased my knowledge level and ability by, like, 10 times, because this guy's good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the spinner bait, if anybody's wondering. It's awesome. Check it out.
I have no idea anything about fishing.
They're fantastic, but it was something that was common, just like firearms.
Mm-hmm.
But it was something that I didn't have a lot of experience with at the time.
Right.
Everybody was telling me they were awesome. The same thing could be said for firearms. Okay, you may not have a lot of experience. Maybe all you've had is a bolt action 22, and you want to get a handgun. There's plenty of experts out there, and people who can teach you, and like, this knowledge is readily available.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's nothing special about it. Just like the fishing. Okay, it's readily available. Nothing special about it.
Right.
All you got to do is go collect this knowledge. And this guy looked like he had
never collected the knowledge.
Yeah, he's never done this before in his life.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I would love to see not the resumes, but like the interview process when they interview these people.
Yeah.
Because who in the world is considering this guy the professional? Or the expert? I mean, if you brought him something that was off the wall, I honestly don't even expect like an American to be able to learn how to take down like a dadgum MP5.
Right.
It's a German-made gun. They're awesome.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't expect him to even know that. But a Glock 17, I was like, how does anybody trust this guy? Let alone, let's think about this. Who sees this video and is like, I'm going to put this on the internet so the whole world can know that this is my ATF agent? And I'm like,
I would have at least edited it.
I would have
Would you not agree? Like, I would have just took the end part of that clip.
Yeah.
And then posted it and been like, see how fast that was?
That's right.
Like, they didn't even lie about being bad.
No, which, hey, mad respect.
Yeah.
I don't need people lying.
That's true. I mean.
But I would much rather see somebody not know what to do, so now I can form an opinion, even though I've already formed my opinion about that. It's going to be a long time until somebody really changes that kind of thing for me. But, yeah, we got this expert guy that doesn't know how to even take that down. And he might one day say, hey, that brace that's on your AR, I've deemed that to make the gun 50% more, where I lost the word.
Lethal?
Yeah. Me putting a brace on the gun is more lethal. Mind you, if you do have a brace on an AR, anybody knows what I'm talking about, they expect you to wrap that thing around your wrist and hold it like this. Like a 10.5-inch AR-15. And yeah, is it heavy? Not really, since it's so short. But let's take the expert of ATF. I'm calling him out right now, actually. Calling him out. ATF expert. I would bet you $1,000 that I could outshoot you with the same gun, and you wrap it around your wrist, and I'll shoot it like a regular gun, and we'll talk about what is more safe. Because you like to deem that, pistols need braces because it makes them more safe and not as deadly. Okay, let's take 3 targets and let's put 4 innocent people around it. We're gonna walk from 10 meters, or innocent targets. We're gonna walk from 10 meters to the left, 10 meters to the right, and I want to see how many shots you can hit on the bad targets versus the good targets. If you're shooting it with one hand and I'm shooting it with it in my shoulder, this is a bet. To this day, I'll do it for the rest of my life until I die. If any ATF agent wants to come do this, especially the expert, I would love to have that challenge, because I'm not even that expert of a shooter whatsoever, I don't think. But to say that you could put a brace on a short barrel AR and it makes it safer for some reason, especially because I can't shoulder it now, it's got to go into my wrist. Good luck.
Yeah. Also, if you accept, I would like to record this. I think it would be fantastic.
If they let them record taking down a Glock in 5 minutes, I'm sure they'll let record
a little competition.
Friendly competition. A little friendly competition right there. And if you win, I'll give you a handshake and I'll say, mad respect. But if you lose, I deserve the same thing and I should win a suppressor.
There you go.
No tax stamp.
No tax stamp. Ooh.
No tax stamp.
That's on the line.
Just the way God intended it.
Yes.
No tax stamp.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. Just the way God intended. The ATF, alcohol, tobacco, firearms. Some of that, yeah, should be regulated. The tobacco, firearms, or what am I saying? Alcohol, tobacco portion.
Yeah.
But the firearms, yeah, to a certain extent, but maybe getting a little out of control.
Getting a little out of control.
Well, you know.
Yeah.
So.
There's a...
Man.
I'd love to see a breakdown on why they think... Just be transparent about it.
Yeah.
This is why I think a suppressor makes the gun more deadlier. Bring a actual firearm expert in. Let him give you a breakdown on it. And film it live. Bring it on a podcast.
Yeah.
Actually, let's just delete this whole thing right here. Any ATF agent that wants to come on this podcast, I would love to have you on here because I'd love to ask you a bunch of questions. I'm not going to make fun of you whatsoever. I just want to know why the Bureau does what it does. And I'm sure there's a bunch of good people at the ATF.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a bunch of good people at the FBI, the CIA, all that stuff. But the person that's making y'all's decisions and making y'all like known to the rest of the world is not doing a good job. We don't trust you for the people that is putting it out there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that I don't trust necessarily the individual. I don't know the individual, so I technically don't trust him. But I hate that for y'all because it makes y'all look bad. I'm sure there's a lot of things out there that the FBI's done good. I'm sure there's a lot of things out there the CIA's done good. I'm sure there's a lot of things out there the ATF's actually probably done good.
Mm-hmm.
But don't go buy an AR-500 plate from Academy Sports and put it in your plate carrier and come to my house to try to take my guns. Because I'm not going to respect you when you do that. I don't know if you've ever saw that video.
Yeah, I've seen
or
that.
the picture.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's about all I have to say.
Man, I want to talk a little bit real quick on the, so ATF weapons expert.
Mm-hmm.
There's I think it's called Forgotten Firearms or Forgotten Weapons, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy
is sharp.
Dude, he's sharp. And he knows about some obscure stuff. And we're talking about guns like, I don't even know, like long ago.
Yeah, yeah.
And he knows everything about them.
I think his name's Ian.
Ian, that's it.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
Check him out. Awesome. If you want an expert, that's a guy right
Bring
there.
that guy on, yeah.
He's the guy you should talk to because, man, he knows his stuff.
ATF, start a podcast and bring on big gun people.
Yes.
And I would love to watch that podcast. I mean, I would actually give y'all views because I would love to see the conversation that y'all have with each other. But, yeah, Ian's super sharp. I'm not a big old kind of gun guy.
Right.
I know you are, though. So he would definitely be your guy to bring on, though.
Yes.
And have just a good conversation about it.
Well, and I think they should even have him more in like a, or guys like that, people who want to talk about it, who really know their stuff, in a, what would you call that, professional setting?
Mm-hmm.
Like you know, like the ATF's always at these hearings and stuff, and they're always arguing with these people and those people over whether they're trying to take something away or whether they're rewriting something.
Mm-hmm.
Giving something back, however you want to word it. Those types of guys could make a huge difference, I feel. If they're like, no, this is the facts. I can lay it out for you.
Right.
You know, piece by piece. And so I think it should be more beneficial.
They have to be kind of what we talked about in the very, very first podcast, and I think we're getting close to where we're wrapping it up here, but they have to be willing to learn something, though.
Yeah.
Like, even if you're the expert,
mm-hmm.
and somebody may has convinced you somehow, some way, that a brace makes a gun more safe. Maybe they really have. I don't.
Right.
Maybe they did. But you have to be willing for somebody to come up and say, no, man, it's actually way more safer if you dig that stock into your shoulder,
mm-hmm.
not hold it with one hand, brace it real good with your other arm, squeeze the trigger slowly, and make sure you know is what you're shooting at and what's behind your target
mm-hmm.
versus just doing what they're doing now. Because I wish I would lived in a world to where I could say, hey, I trust the ATF.
Mm-hmm.
Like if there was some guy that was next to me that was a child trafficking felon or something, I would much rather the ATF bust up in there and take care of business.
Right.
Before I had to do it, because then I'd probably go to jail for something, because that's probably wrong to some people out there. But
No, that's a good
That's
point. What is the ATF actually for?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. So what are they really
What
doing?
what are they doing?
And if that's a perfect example. Think about the criminals who have guns illegally.
Right.
Alcohol, firearms, tobacco
Right.
type of items. That's who we need to be.
That's who we need to be.
I mean, we need to be getting after those guys.
Right. I know. I agree with you 100%.
Man, that's a great way to put it, I think.
So you have to ask yourself on that though.
Mhm.
If we deem that to be the thing that ATF should be doing,
Yeah.
and they're not doing that right now,
Mhm.
why is that? What's the motive? They're trying to take guns away from Americans that love the U.S. That's the motive. If it's not, I'd love to hear your answer. And if it's not ATF, I'd love to hear your answer. Because that's exactly what it makes it seem like.
It does seem like the way I see it is it's everything happens in like a process with me. And so currently I think it's, we'll start with these items. Then we'll move on to bigger stuff like actual firearms.
The amount that they can control.
Yeah. And yeah, man.
But why are they taking away? Why do they want to take away guns though?
Because they're misinformed and they think it's going to be more beneficial for us to not have them. I think it's their mindset.
Really?
Yeah. More beneficial for them, the government, for us to not have them.
So it is deceivious. Are you saying that these are believers that the world would really be a better place if there was no guns, like it would save people, or let's take away from the gun from the Americans because if we do something to one day and they can't fight back if they don't have no guns.
I don't know what the percentage is, but I would say there's a little bit of both probably in there. That's probably the bulk of it. I bet there's some people who genuinely go and join the ATF because they think guns are bad. That's what's the problem, and I'm going to help regulate that problem. Versus there's going to be...
You think ATF should hire somebody that does that, though? Because that's not really the goal.
No,
of ATF.
because, that's not what I think they should be doing. But, that's what's happening. So that's what they're going to be doing right now. As well as the ones who are like, you know what? I think maybe they have too much power as a civilian, as an individual.
Oh, I'm sure there's a bunch of people who think that.
And we need to take some of these back. You may have some of that going on too.
Yeah, but they need to go talk to these people before they make the assumption. Because a friend of mine I used to work with at UPS, he was telling me a story one time. He was went to a baseball game, and he carries a pistol, and another guy there that was somewhat of a friend, more of like an acquaintance, knew that he carried a pistol, and kind of went up to him and said, "Sir, what are you so scared of that you have to carry a pistol?" And he said, "Since I carry a pistol, I'm not scared of anything." He said, "That's why I carry a pistol." He said, "I can protect everybody here." I would like to make the case that we could convince people that guns are there to protect each other than to just kill each other. But I don't even think they'd listen to that. If they do, then they're actually looking out for the people and they do care. But I don't think
they're willing to learn. Remember we talked about that?
Yeah, of course.
Coming full circle on that one. They're willing to learn. And that's what that boils down to. And I touched on that even in our first one.
Or willing to be wrong.
Yeah.
That's huge.
That's something I try to do.
It's huge.
Me and this guy be arguing about something, and I'll be like, all right, I was wrong on that.
Same.
And so, but yeah, I think that's another thing, like you're pointing out, and I talked about it on our last one. It's not because we're afraid. That's not the reason. Maybe some people are. I talked about that too, but I like to think of it as being a line of defense, just like everything else. And without it, now nobody. Imagine if nobody there can protect anybody. You're just fish in a barrel. Now all of a sudden there's a fisherman and he's protecting the fish.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Something like that. I guess that's the best stuff.
The fishermen protect fish. They just catch fish.
Well, you might be catch and release.
I guess you do catch them. That's true. Just catch them, bait them, and talking back in there. I'll get you next time, buddy. That's the ATF's whole plan Thursday.
A lot of people use the shepherd and the flock
Yeah.
analogy. You know,
Be
everybody
the shepherd or what's
everybody
sheepdog.
likes to be the sheepdog.
the sheepdog. That's it.
Even though that one gets a little out of hand sometimes, I think.
Yeah.
Guys are like, I'm the sheepdog. Are you? When's the
Are you
last
the
time
sheep-
you went to the gym?
When's
Can
the last
you
time you
run
went-
5 miles right now?
Very true.
You're the
Very true.
sheepdog. I don't think so.
I
but-
don't think so. You're the poodle. Even though I'm pretty sure poodles are some people use duck dogs. They use
Oh,
poodles as duck dogs. That's it.
Might be an old billy goat.
Old Billy Goat. Well, guys, I think we went over some good stuff today. Had a bunch of good conversations, and I hope everybody is looking forward to the future. I hope everybody stays optimistic about a lot of things. I know the world is definitely good at not keeping you being optimistic about everything, but the more optimistic, the more happy people, the more people we have that be sure to check every avenue, I think it would just carry over to more people. I mean, they always say if you're around somebody that's happier than you are and they continue to be happy, then you're more likely to be happy.
Yep.
So be that person that's walking around smiling. Be that person that goes around and asks people how they're doing. Shake everybody's hand, look them in the eye. Always be willing to learn. And in the end, stay skeptic about everything. Hope y'all have a good rest of your day. And this is podcast number 2. Over and out.
Over and out.